Fast 10, or Fast X, because I guess that's what it's technically called, is technically the 11th film of the Fast and Furious franchise if you count Hobbs and Shaw. Dom Toretto and his family are targeted by the vengeful son of drug kingpin Hernan Reyes. I've always enjoyed the Fast and Furious franchise. I know that they're films you're not really supposed to think about too much. You go and eat some popcorn. You're supposed to have a good time. You're supposed to turn your brain off. You're supposed to see some crazy action that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. But I feel like there are some films that were able to balance the absurd action, but also tell a good story, keep the action still somewhat grounded, even though it's still ridiculous, but it's still a good time, and you don't feel like anything's too crazy, but everything is still crazy. I know I'm kind of rambling, but I think you know what I'm talking about. That's why Fast 5 is still, to this day, my favorite Fast and Furious movie. I feel like that was perfectly balanced with the over-the-top action, the story, the characters, everything was very exciting. And even the couple installments after that, I feel like almost hit that same level as Fast 5, but it seemed like the franchise had a good groove on how to make these films a lot of fun and actually make some quality films. But lately the franchise has had trouble balancing all those aspects. I mean, specifically with Fast 9, there are parts of it that are a lot of fun, and I do like the over-the-top action in that film, but sometimes it's a little too self-aware, it's a little too crazy. I think they went a little bit too far in a few areas there. So now we have Fast 10, the finale of this Fast franchise, or at least part 1 of part 3 of the finale of this franchise. Has been going on for 20 years, and yes, you heard me right, Vin Diesel announced that this is going to be a trilogy. It's not even going to be part 1 and part 2. This will be a trilogy to wrap up all 10 films, I guess 11 if you count Hobbs and Shaw. So how was Fast 10? Unfortunately, Fast 10 is one of my least favorite installments in the franchise. I really have to think about that though, because I haven't seen the old ones in a while, to be completely honest. But I'm not going to lie, I feel like this film had a lot of issues, specifically with what's going on in the film. I mean, this film is crazy, and you expect that. It's a Fast and Furious movie. We have Vin Diesel doing some crazy ass shit in cars. There's helicopters everywhere. There's missiles, gunfights. Like, it's insanity in this film, and you expect that. But for some reason throughout the film, there is so much going on. There's so much going on with all these different characters, but while you're watching the film, at the same time, it feels like nothing's going on. And I think that's the biggest problem with this film, is the story. I read the synopsis off IMDb, so it's not a spoiler. The film is about Jason Momoa getting revenge on Don Toretto because of something that happened in the past. And I will leave it at that. And speaking of Jason Momoa, I'll talk about what I liked about this film, and that is Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa is excellent in this film. He stole almost every scene he was in. I mean, him as a villain, like, his motivations are fine, and, like, that's all okay. It's very generic. It's whatever, but that's not the point. The point is really his performance, and him as a villain was a lot of fun. And you could tell that he was having a blast playing this role, too. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the stuff he did was ad-lib, because it just seemed like he felt so natural in this role, and he was a lot of fun. But unfortunately, it was probably the only fun part about this film. And I know that's weird to hear for a Fast and Furious movie, and I'm probably being a little bit too harsh because there are some fun sequences, but I don't know. It felt like the quality of some of those action sequences and the excitement wasn't there compared to like Fast 5 or Fast 6 or Fast 7. It felt like there was something missing, or maybe just the quality was just not as good as the previous installments, because there are times where there's a lot of CGI. Like, there's a shit ton of CGI in this movie. I think it might have been the most CGI in a Fast movie that I've ever seen, either that or Fast 9. And a lot of the times it doesn't work, and it makes the sequence not as fun, not as exciting compared to the other films. And like I said before with the story, it feels like there's not much going on, so a lot of the times it feels like there's just a random fist fight thrown into the middle of the movie that really doesn't need to be there, but as a screenwriter, probably like, okay, there's nothing really going on right now. We need to get some excitement going. So they throw in these random fist fights all over the place. And like I said, like, the action's fine, it's fun, but sometimes it feels out of place. And like I said, it just feels like nothing's going on. There's no substance there. I don't know if that was because they're trying to set up for 2 more movies now. I mean, that's a hard task to do when you're going to make a trilogy now. You have to make part 1 somewhat interesting when, if I had to guess, the script was probably only meant for 2 movies, so you have to drag some things out. So pretty much a lot of this movie is like, we got to meet somewhere, and then they have to go somewhere else, and then we go somewhere else. And it just doesn't flow as well as the other movies. It feels like they're almost stalling, because like I said, they have to set up a trilogy for this. Another problem with this film, and at this point, the franchise, it seems like there's way too many characters. This film specifically has a really hard time trying to balance where characters are supposed to be, where we're supposed to focus on, who we're supposed to be interested in. There's way too much of that going on. And I think a lot of characters are left out because of that. And that's a major issue. And this isn't a spoiler because we knew this was supposed to be 2 movies, but now we know it's supposed to be 3 movies. The movie ends on a cliffhanger, and you're kind of like, really? That's the cliffhanger? Like, we already know what's probably going to happen at the beginning of this second movie now. And there's also more reveals that happen that now it just kind of makes the whole franchise as a whole kind of convoluted, which I guess that's kind of the point because the franchise kind of is. And maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm supposed to just turn my brain off completely and have more fun with this film. But unfortunately, I felt like I did. I can appreciate that there are parts where it's very self-aware and they really ramp up the camp, but sometimes it's just too campy. Like, this is probably one of the worst written dialogues for the Fast franchise. It probably is the worst written dialogue for the Fast franchise. There's some fun and exciting sequences. I'm not going to deny that. And like I said, Jason Momoa is a lot of fun this film. I mean, anytime he was on screen, I was having a blast. But overall, it felt like this film was going nowhere. There's way too many characters. It felt like the story didn't know where it was supposed to go. It felt like we're trying to set up 2 more movies, which apparently that's what we're doing. If you're a big fan of the Fast and Furious franchise, I still think you're going to have fun with this film. All the characters are there. The sequences are there. Like, all the Fast and Furious tropes you want in a Fast and Furious film are in this film. But when you compare it to the other films, it feels like lesser in quality, less excitement, and I was expecting something bigger because this is supposed to be the big finale for this Fast franchise, and I know we're still going to get 2 other movies, so maybe they're able to stick the landing in those other 2. But so far, part 1 of this Fast 10 trilogy finale just wasn't for me. I'm going to give Fast 10 4.5 Davey Daves. This movie really does go in with a lot of the ridiculous nonsense. I mean, there are parts in this film that had my theater dying laughing because of how crazy and stupid it was. And I can't lie, some of that is entertaining. But like I said before, I feel like the other films had that, but there was a good balance to it. And I think these last 2 films have maybe taken a little bit too far. So, Fast 10. Let me know what you guys thought of it once you've seen it. I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Dave's Takes.